the next year, 1993, you do win consecutive races at Orange County and Martinsville early on in the season, and then you won the season finale in Atlanta. How did the conversation get started about moving to Winston Cup?
So our Hardy sponsor was Body Knoll, who's a franchise, owns a bunch of Hardy's franchise. Body Knoll had gone to corporate Hardy's there in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and got them convinced to come on board. At that time, I was getting pretty good Cup offers. But with Mr. Dillard giving me my first break and all, I just did not feel I didn't have a good conscience just leaving him.
Wow.
So I stayed with Mr. Dillard, and it was a rocky road, man. We didn't have enough funding.
Once you did move to Cup.
Yeah, Mr. Dillard. Now we were in good shape in the Busch Series.
Yeah.
But it was a whole different ball game in the Cup Series, and the gentleman. Well, what happened? Freddie Fryer quit the day that we were doing a press conference. Him and Mr. Dillard was having some friction. It's a shame both of them have passed now because they both passed last year. But Freddie was just real stressed out. I can remember going to talk to him that morning. He just, man, I just can't do it. So we went for quite a few months with really no leadership, and every single car mounted with lower rear quarters. Because you remember back in those days, you'd have downforce bodies and no downforce bodies like Talladega, Daytona.
Yeah.
Every one of them were no downforce. So hell, we couldn't make Rockingham. We didn't make Daytona. We didn't make Rockingham. We barely made Richmond on second qualifying. So it was tough. But then he found Felipe Lopez and Ronnie Crooks, and they started rightening the ship. And I'll be honest with you, with nothing, those two could give me some hot rods at times. And, of course, we'd come in the pits, we'd lose what we had gained. But at the end of that season, we were going to win the race at Atlanta. I mean, if you watch that last Atlanta race with 25 laps to go, we're leading it. Everybody else had blown the right front on the Hoosier tires, and they kept telling me to slow down, but that car was not going to slow down. Yeah. We were going to win the race, and the motor blew up. But, at that time, I was getting offers, Ricky, but, I wanted to stay there just to see it through. And then at the latter part of 95, it had become obvious to Mr. Dillard and to me, we just couldn't go forward. So I was going to have to leave, and that's when he decided to end our relationship. Actually, our last run with Mr. Dillard was a 6 at Michigan.
Yeah.
And we split ways the next week, and that's how we got with MBNA and Bill Davis.
Is it true that you found out about Mr. Dillard's decision to let you go? Is it true that you actually found out from a Winston Cup scene reporter?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that and a gentleman on the Bob Boyles used to do some of. You remember Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob used to do some of the press for Mr. Dillard. So yep. It was somewhere Monday afternoon or something. Yeah.
Now, had you already been talking to Bill? Because that was a pretty quick switch. You ran for Allen one week, and then the next you were.
Well, Mr. Dillard, it was a tough thing to talk about, but it was obvious that Mr. Dillard was keeping the team afloat with his own funding.
Yeah.
And Hardy's wasn't going to up where we needed to be at. So yes, George Debonart, who got MBNA in the sport, he got in touch with me, about a month before then. So I'd already had some conversations with George and Bill and Dave Algina with MBNA.
You go over to the 22 car, Bill Davis. You go to North Wilkesboro a few races after going to the 22 car, and you fail to qualify. Was there any kind of panic that maybe this wasn't the right deal, or were you okay at that point?
Well, if my memory serves right, I think my first race, well, I know my first race with Bill was Bristol. And we were running good in the Motor Blue.
Yeah.
Actually, that day, MB&A gave me a 1952 Korean War Willis Jeep and drove it in the drove it in the infield. So I mean, I still got that Jeep. But yeah, so I mean, I felt like I was in better stuff. Well, as a matter of fact, I knew I was. So you know, anytime you miss a race, golly, it takes you days to get your head back in the game, because it's pretty much a balloon with all the air going out of it. But it's just real disappointing. It's embarrassing, with everybody involved, not only your family, your sponsors, your team. But, I mean, no panic,
Okay.
It's always another week.
So you go to Rockingham at the end of that year, 1995, and NASCAR black flags Dale Earnhardt for missing lug nut. He comes in. It's actually there. Then they throw a caution to put him back where he's running. But then he hits while pit road was closed. All heck breaks loose, and you win. What do you remember about that day?
We had a good, solid car all day. We took the lead pretty early. Had I not had them make a last-minute adjustment for qualifying, we qualified third. We'd have won the pole. Man, we had run great. The last two sets of tires were dead on the money. We were leading the race when they threw the black flag, which they wouldn't have thrown for anybody else, I don't believe. But anyway, we came out of the pits not leading the race. And Chris Hussey he pretty much yelling at me because, you don't want to get black flag, right? I think we were lined up fourth or fifth or something like that. Go back to the lead, where it's just really unorthodox.
Yeah.
It's unless NASCAR tells you to go back to lead, or the flagman or somebody is, but I did. And I think it was 7, 8, 10 laps to go, and the car was just on the money. There was nobody at that moment. Rusty finished second, but nobody could have challenged that car that end of that day.
Were you aware of all the stuff that was going on with Dale and all that crap, and were you concerned about it? What was going on in your mind at that point?
Well, they threw the caution, so never expect anything to be easy. Had the caution not come out, we really didn't have any threat from second place. But I comprehended it. I knew what I was being told, like everybody else sitting in a race car. I think the scoreboard changed a couple of times, but once we crossed the start-finish line, that's the least was my concern.
What did it mean to you to win a cup race?
Hey, man, we were there, I never felt like if you had the right equipment, right team, right resources, any harder to win a cup race than it was a bush race. They're both hard. You just got everything got to come together, no mistakes made from the driver to pit crew, mechanical stuff. It just really boils down to be in a situation to win. You've got to have the in-depth resources. And the better teams, that's got all the resources, are going to rise to the occasion more than others.
The year 2000, you went at Darlington in the spring, and then in the year 2001, you win the Southern 500 in the fall. After going 4 years without a win, was there anything in particular that you had found at Darlington, or were you just comfortable there?
I was always comfortable at Darlington. But to go back for a minute, when they changed the body on the Pontiac in '96, so our last race on '95, I think we finished fourth or fifth. I can't remember which, at Atlanta. I mean, we really had stuff going on with not a lot of resources at Davis Racing. They changed the body style. We went back to Rockingham the next year, and we just didn't have it together, man. And obviously it had something to do with downforce. Goodyear had changed the tires a little bit, but that just goes into the resources. But 96, 97, part of 98, we gave away tons of races. A lot of it was the guys building the motors made some good power, but we didn't have dynos. So we blew a lot of motors. I made some mistakes. I mean, but there was a bunch of races from the Poconos in particular, Charlotte. I mean, there was nobody to compete for us. But we just would not finish the race.
Yeah.
So in 98 is when Bill finally changed crew chief and Chris had done a great job, don't get me wrong. Chris Hussey was a great crew chief. We were just missing something. But when he brought Tommy Baldwin on board, second race we finished second at Charlotte. So, and Tommy brought guys with him. So the existing team was kind of built up with Tommy and Darlington, man, we just hit on something. So, I mean, if you go back and watch those races, we gave 4 of those races away, too.
Yeah.
There was about a 3-year time frame that when we loaded off a truck, you had to beat us. We beat ourselves 4 of those times. The weather got us 2 of those times.
Yeah.
But, I mean, digging at Darlington was, you just in that zone. You were in that mental zone. Nothing else. That's the one thing about a race car. I mean, if you ever try not to daydream or not to think about something else while you're doing something, it's a hard thing. Sitting in that race car was an easy thing. 2002
Daytona 500. You make it to the mountaintop in the sport's biggest race. Any chance that you were going to get out of the car on the backstretch and help Sterling fix his fender?
Well, looking back on it, it was back when we raced to the line. When him and 24 got together, I was surprised it didn't blow with us racing back to the line. That's how much it was smoking. So if you look back at what Sterling did, it was his only chance not to have to pit. Pretty daggone smart.
Yeah.
Had he got away with it and could he have pulled, I don't think he could have pulled it off anyway, but if he could have, he'd have had a shot to win the race.
What do you remember about the last few laps?
Not a lot. It was single file start. I'm trying to remember. It might have been Jeff Bodine right behind me. I can't remember who was behind me, but Elliott got around them. It wasn't as much blocking going on as it is now. People didn't block like it is. There was a few, but it wasn't a common occurrence to slow somebody's momentum down. So I started up high going through the gearbox, and, some of them started pulling low. I got in front of that momentum coming off of 2, going into 3. It really wasn't a threat, unless I did something absolutely crazy or something, not run the right line or something. So the momentum had broke up a little bit, so it was single file. And, hell, it's never over till it's over. But I can remember the one at Daytona, I had a chance to win as much as the one that we did win.
At what point did it sink in that you had won the Daytona 500?
From y'all. The media, it just was such a amount of attention put on the team and myself from being shifted to New York. I can remember, I was on the road until Thursday. I finally got back home Thursday from leaving Daytona that Monday morning, and I just wanted to go to the farm. And it was some fun times, that's one of those things that, you know, when I'm introduced doing something, that's going to be one of the things that they introduce me at. So for better or for worse, it's there, you know.
All right. I believe it was later that year, but are you remembered more for being a Daytona 500 champion or for John Boy and Billy?
That's a good daggone question. Well, let's get one thing. Cat skid steer loader. So I can say it now, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back for a minute. I've got a temper that can come out, and I can say some cuss words on TV like damn, hell, something like that. But I never said that stuff on national TV, as mad as I was.
Oh, yeah.
So John Boy and Billy, this was a pre-taped. It was not live when I did it.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't get the fax machine at 7 a.m. that morning to send me the script. I could not, and it probably was just out of paper, because I'm not the most intelligent person when it comes to this. That was long before computers, man. We had a fax machine. So I'm trying to wing it, and I've been to the cat skid steer plant. I've been there. Before they're kicking this new product off, John Boy and Billy played that live, because I'm just playing with them, right?
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
say I ought to go to speeching school, I'm talking about what I ought to be sent to Hargrave, or go down to Carolina Tractor. I'm just playing with them, because I literally could not say this damn 4 word. But today's time, you'd get fired for that.
Yeah.
So they played it live, because I didn't do it live. I'm just making a point to you.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world I would say those things being live, knowing that my sponsor was going to hear it. Luckily, they took it in stride.
All right. We posted a video on our YouTube channel about you and your cat skid steer loader. And Ward, somebody actually got mad at us.
Really?
For making fun.
Making fun of me?
Of you. Because they said, and I'm just going to ask, and if you don't want to answer it.
No, what?
They said that you had a speech impediment. You don't, do you? That's just the way that you
never
talk.
could. So I got sent to some of the 3rd grade, 5th grade, and maybe 7th to summer schools.
Okay.
So, you know, why Hargrave didn't, I learned to be homesick at a pretty daggone early age, and after a week or 2, I wasn't homesick anymore. But I couldn't pronounce things properly.
Right.
Like refrigerator or elephant. And I still slur.
Yeah.
You know, so no, did I have a speech impediment? I don't think I had a speech impediment. I don't stutter. But I have always, like if it's a bunch of S's or R's together, I've always had a problem with it, even to this day. I mean, but hey, in y'all's defense, I don't look like you're making fun at me. Jeb and I were in my Dodge truck the year that came out, and we were riding around the farm. He's just a little chap. And they played it. we both laughed like hell. And Jeb turned around and looked at me real serious. He said, "Dad, do you think they're laughing at you or with you?" Wow. And I said, "Jeb, it doesn't really matter." And that's the way
So how old was he when he asked that? That's a pretty astute question for a kid.
He's probably 02. I think that's about when that came on. He's probably, I don't know, 10.
Okay.
11 or so.
Wow. So, Ward, you did wind up leaving Bill at the end of the 2003 season. Was that a mutual decision, or what happened?
No, it just, man, the team had not kept up with the technology. Bill had gotten caught developing Toyota trucks, which, you know, everybody knew Toyota trucks were the start, but they're going Winston Cup racing. So we lost Dodge support, fired Tommy Baldwin, and then Mike Brown a guy that worked for Bill Davis handed me an envelope that had termination papers.
Wow.
And there was one president with Cat, vice president, that Bill and Mike had convinced I was the problem of their performance. And I don't know, man. I called my rep at Cat, and he brought up some damn lame excuse about a late contract being signed or something. But you live and learn. I had turned down the biggest rides in the sports, being loyal to the 22 car. The same loyalty wasn't repaid, and they went belly up not long after that. But hey, it's water over the dam now. Was I in the prime of my career, physically and mentally, if I was with a good team? Absolutely. I tried to make it with Gene Hoss the following year, and it was just they had a tie to Hendricks, but just wasn't able to use the resources. Tony Stewart obviously fixed that with his support. But when I quit, and the biggest reason I quit is I didn't know who to trust anymore, and there wasn't any good Cup offers. Looking back on it, what I probably should have done, because I had some good opportunities in the Busch Series, I probably should have rebuilt my career. But I had this whole other life, from creating the Burton Wildlife Foundation in '96. So it wasn't like racing was a part of my life, but it wasn't my whole life. Now, I gave it 100%, don't get me wrong. Everything came second when I was racing full-time, but it bothered me. I dreamed about it and all that, but it didn't bother me here. It might have bothered me here a little bit.
Yeah. You mentioned the fact earlier that you had turned down some rides when you were with Mr. Dillard. And then you talk about how you'd turned down some rides when you were with Bill Davis. What was in your DNA that caused you to be that loyal to the people who brought you along?
Man, I've had such great role models with my grandparents and my parents. A dear friend of mine, C.R. Sanders, and his friends. I was brought up with so many adults that live by the code, and I don't vary from the code. Yeah. What I say I'm going to do is what I'm going to do, and I'm as loyal as a puppy staying in the yard. These gentlemen gave me opportunities when maybe I would not have had those opportunities, and I just felt like I needed to treat people the way that I would like to be treated. Looking back on it, if I had someone that maybe you could call them an agent, I don't know. I never had anybody like that around me. Maybe there were different ways to look at things. Maybe I could have still helped Davis in some way, because you got to remember a lot of those times, particularly when MB&A, when I was Robert Yates or Hendricks, I knew that if I left, MB&A was gone. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
So were they going to be able to get another sponsor? What's going to happen to all these employees that I've become friends with? So I just took a lot of, when I was making decisions, I was taking into account what it was going to do to others.
When you made the decision to walk away from the sport, how difficult was it to do that? How badly did you miss it?
I had a ball when I wasn't racing. Okay, so I was able to do things. My brother Brian and I had a lake house at Bugs Island Lake. We were able to do things with the family. My foundation, was growing a lot. The land management piece. I mean, so, I'm up 4:35 every single morning. have been my entire adult life, and I work till dusk every day, and I don't know any different. So, staying busy and having projects going on all the time is not a chance to be depressed.
So in a way, it took the pressure off.
Well, in some ways, look, we all got our own stresses and our own pressures and things that bother us, and that's just life, right? But it's still looking back on it. I know I could have won and had the ability to win a lot more damn races and make a more of an impact in the sport. Those decisions were 100% mine, of turning down some of those other opportunities. But hey, it's no reason to look back. I was lucky that racing gave me a little bit of a voice to be able to make a difference in our natural resources. It certainly gave me the financial means to do so. And right now, I'm just honored to be able to work on something that's more important than me.
Speaking of something that's more important than you, 2015, your wife Tabitha was diagnosed with breast cancer. Is there any way to put into words what those next few months were like for the two of you and your family?
Man, been through hell, learned a lot more about cancer than I ever wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So, whenever you hear the C word, one of the biggest things is what's the stage and is it in the lymph nodes? And it was in her lymph nodes. So, she's been a trooper. She battles the side effects and still taking these medicines for, 10 years, which she's got about 5 more years to go. But, it certainly changed her. And it's a changing event for about anybody. But, hey, she's still here. We're lucky with that. She's still a great mom, and she's a good wife. So, hey, life has got a bunch of unexpected drama things that we're all going to have to deal with. The longer you live, the more you're going to deal with them, right?
Yeah. What is it like for you today watching Jeb race?
Well, I've gotten more used to it. I mean, man, when it first started, I swear, I didn't know if my heart could. if you'd have tested my heart rhythm, I'm way up. When I was racing, I can remember they used to put stuff on. I'm still just relaxed, like I'm probably more relaxed when I'm not doing an interview, but just real low. But man, Jeb's a wheel man. He's learning. So I'm a lot more comfortable with it, but it's still a dangerous sport, although NASCAR and many other innovators have done a great job to make it much more safer than even my group. So the generation before us, it's a damn wonder a lot more of them didn't perish. Yeah. But a lot of drivers in the Dash, ARCA, Busch, and Cup perished when I was racing.
Yeah.
I mean, a many. And it was a yearly event. So you're not seeing that anymore. So that part's always back here, but it's not as present it used to be.
Yeah.
Daytona and Talladega, the way the cars are bunched up, that's still a little bit of a zoo, and particularly like with my wife and other wives, Jeb's wife, grandparents, everybody's on pins and needles at those two tracks. Yeah. But Jeb has got a great opportunity. He's worked his all. We all have. So for him to be able to race with Colic Racing full time and bring State and LS Tractor and Alsco, Rocky Boots to the table, and to have such a great authentic sponsor with Nutrient Ag Solutions. Just what a blessing.
Now, you have 2 other children? You've got an older daughter?
Yep, Sarah's the oldest of 3, and she's got, Tab and I now have 2 granddaughters, Caroline and Clara, and her husband Gordy is a great guy, and then my youngest son, Ashton, he's going to school in D.C. at American University. Unfortunately, with this crazy epidemic, he can't really go to school, but that's where he's living out.
Now, what's he planning to do?
He wants to do something for his country. You know, he's trying to get an internship with the CIA this coming summer, so I think Ashton's really wanting to find a way to make a difference. And he's not that concerned just about a job and money. He wants to do something that's rewarding.
Ward, how would you like to be remembered by race fans?
Man, I drove that car as fast as it would go every single lap. I don't think when I had good stuff and back in the day, I don't think anybody drove in the corner deeper than I did, which maybe as they changed their tires was a hindrance, but I drove the wheels off them damn race cars and loved it. I missed the interaction with the fans, always will. You know, you heard Scarlett and I talking, you know, Jeb sends out this stuff with social media, so we'll sign foundation hats and all that stuff. But, you know, just, hey, man, it's always live by the code and not going to vary from it. I didn't vary from it then. I'm not going to vary from it now.